Class, this is Tuesday of our fifth week, April 28th, and this is on Hyperbolas, section 14.4 on page 634, and this is the fourth, and to me the most interesting of our conic sections, which we started out with. So here we see that the subtract, which is always between the letters, is key to the hyperbola. Now, on the last section, we learned that the ellipses always have pluses between the x's and y's, and we'll see how this has a difference on the focus points here. So we have an opening horizontally hyperbola, which is x squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared equals 1. Now notice it has a box of, on the axis that's opening, it's going plus or minus A0 is one vertex, negative A0 is another vertex. Then it goes up and down plus or minus B from the origin, giving the upper point 0, B and negative B0. And now we can draw a box from that. Now notice that the focus point, whereas it was always inside of the vertex for the ellipse, is now outside of the vertex for the hyperbola on both sides. So it looks like that there's two parabolas on either end of the box. So the focus is 0, C and, or C, 0, and negative C, 0. And then there's these asymptote lines, which are the dotted lines going through the corners and the center. And so we have y equals b over a x going upward to the right, and a negative b over a x going downward to the left. Now for the vertical opening per hyperbola, we have y squared over a squared. Remember, y squared is what matters because it came first, minus x squared over b squared equals 1. Now the box is plus or minus b to the left and right, because that's not the way it's opening, but up or down a, because that is under the y, the letter that came first. So we have a 0a and a 0 negative a as the edges of the box. So we have a box that's 2a by 2b wide. And again, we have the focus points above and below the vertices. So we have a focus point at 0, C above and 0, negative C below. And now we have our asymptote lines going through the corners and the center as y equals a over bx positive and y equals negative a over bx negative. So hyperbola is two parabolas opening in opposite directions, left and right for horizontal or up and down for vertical. Now here's the letters and the terminology we use again. So we have horizontal or vertical, which is called the transverse axis, sometimes in the word problems. The vertices for the horizontal are plus or minus a, 0. For the vertical, 0, plus or minus a, up or down. For the minor axis, for the x-axis horizontal, it's 0 plus or minus b. And for the vertical, it's plus or minus b0. The foci, remember, being the same axis as the vertices A, is plus or minus c, 0 for horizontal and 0, plus or minus c for vertical. See, they're on the same axis. And the asymptotes for the horizontal is y equals plus or minus b over a, and on the vertical is y equals plus or minus a over b. And the box is 2a by 2b for horizontal or 2b by 2a for vertical. Now let's do a horizontal. So we would start out with a 4x squared, and we want you to graph this, minus 9y squared equals 36. So we always have to have an equal 1. So we divide by what's after the equal. Divide everything by 36, we end up with 4 over 9, 4 over 36 is 1 over 9, and 9 over 36 is 1 over 4. So our simplified equation is x squared over 9 minus y squared over 4 equals 1. Now, my a squared being under the x squared is 9, so a is 3, and my b squared being under the y squared is 4, so b is 2. But now c squared is a squared plus b squared. For the ellipse, it was minus b squared, but that makes the difference for why the c is outside of or bigger than the vertice and inside a focus point of the parabola. So here c squared is a squared plus b squared, or 9 plus 4 equals 13. So c is equal to plus or minus square root of 13 comma 0, which you can see in the openings. And the asymptotes are rising 2 over 3x, and on the left, it's negative 2 over 3x. So that's our first horizontal hyperbola. Example 2, we have write the equation of the hyperbola with vertices 0, comma, negative 5, and foci 0, comma, negative 8. Then state the equation of the asymptotes. So we have vertices, A is 5 and C is 8 for the foci, and they're on the same axis, the y-axis. So here we have A equals 5, C equals 8, so A squared plus B squared equals C squared, and B squared equals C squared minus A squared, which is 8 squared minus 5 squared, or 65 minus 24 is 39, so B equals 39. Now, this is a mistake on this next one. It should really be y squared over 39, because the focus and the vertices are on the y-axis, so it should be y squared over 39 minus x squared over 25. But the c squared stays the same, and the vertices stay the same. So what we have for vertices is a over bx plus or minus, and so for that we have plus or minus 5 over the square root of 39x. Now, like we've done every time before, we can't have it always centered at 0, 0, so we have a hyperbola centered at hk, and for the horizontal, it's x minus h squared over a squared minus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. But for the vertical, y comes first, and it's y minus k squared over a squared under the y, plus, or no, it's minus there, excuse me, x minus h squared over b squared equals 1. So, example 3, graph the hyperbola. Y came first, so it opens up and down. Okay. Y comes first. So it's y plus 2 squared over 9 minus x minus 3 squared over 16 equals 1. So we have a center. Notice that x is first, x is over on x minus 3 squared, so x is 3 and y is negative 2 for the center. Now we have a squared is 9, so a is 3 for y. B squared is 16, so b is 4 for x. And over on the left here, c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. 16 plus 9 equals 25. C is equal to 5. Okay? And so we have a over b is 3 over 4. So we have now, okay, so let's go and get the vertices, the covertices, and the foci. Now remember, our vertices and foci are on the y-axis. So we take our center for the vertices 3, negative 2, but we take the negative 2 as plus or minus 3, which is a. So one vertice is 3, 1. The other vertice is 3, negative 2 minus 3, or 3, negative 5. The covertices, which are on the x-axis, are 3 plus or minus 4, comma, negative 2. So 3 plus 4, negative 2 is 7, negative 2, and 3 minus 4 is negative 1, negative 2. Now the foci are back on the y-axis, so 3, negative 2 plus or minus 5 is 3, comma 3 when you add, and 3, comma negative 7 when you subtract negative 2 minus 5. Okay, so let's see if we can find our box. We have our center at 3, negative 2, plus 4 is 7, negative 2, back 4 is negative 1, 2. Okay, and then up and down, we have our center at 3, negative 2. We're up 3 to 3, 1, and down 3 to 3, negative 5. But those are our vertices. And the foci are 3, 3, 2 above, and 3, negative 7, 2 below. So there should be parabola lines opening up and opening down. And now we have to do a little bit more work on the vertices. So instead of y equals plus or minus a over b x, we have to account for the non-zero, zero center, which takes more work. So y minus k is 3/4 x minus h, and y minus the negative 2 equals 3/4 x minus 3. Now in order to get this to work, I'm going to say y plus 2 times 4 over 4, because I know I'm dealing with force, is equal to 3/4 x minus 9/4. And now I can subtract the 8/4 from the 9/4 and get y equals 3/4 x minus 9/4 minus the 8/4 brought over. So the upward going line is 3/4 x minus 17/4. The upward going asymptote line going through the corners in the center. Now for the minus, the downward going asymptote line, we have again y plus or minus negative 2, which is plus 2, equals negative 3/4 x minus 3. And we'll do the same thing with the 2 on the left side, make it 8 over 4. So we're going to subtract 8 over 4 from negative 3/4 x plus 9/4. So we end up with negative 3/4 x plus 1/4, 9/4 minus 8/4. And so remember, the parabola lines would be starting at 3, 1 and going up as a parabola, and starting at 3, negative 5, the other vertex, and opening down as a parabola. Okay, our homework starts on page 637, and we're given an a equals 3 for x and a b equals 1, and we're told that it's opening that way to the x direction, so it's x squared over 9 minus y squared over 1, which is just y squared equals 1, and y equals plus or minus, it's actually b over a there, because it's 1 over 3, plus or minus 1 over 3x. And 4 is x squared over 9 minus y squared over 16. We have about 3 to draw. This is the first. So it opens in the x direction. A is 3, because a squared is 9, and b is 4, because b squared is 16. So c squared, our focus points outside the vertex, is 9 plus 16, a squared plus b squared equals 25, and our c is 25, and so our vertex, our asymptote should be b over a, again, I'm sorry, should be 4 over 3. But the main thing here is that we get the vertices at negative 5, let me see, negative 3, 0, yeah, because that's how it's graphed, and at 0, negative 4, and 0, plus 4 for the co-vertices. Okay, and then the vertex points are out to 5, 0, and negative 5, 0. Now for 6, we have y squared minus x squared, which is a nice little easy one. Y squared opens first, so it's opening up and down. And because it's y squared really over 1 and x squared over 1, y and x are just 1. So my box is 1 by 1, and my focus is c squared is 1 plus 1 is 2, so it's square root of 2. So it's the focus points are 0 square root of 2 above the 0, 1, and 0 negative square root of 2 above the 0, negative 1, and the asymptotes are plus or minus x, and they open up or down. Okay, now the next one, 8, is 25x squared minus 16y squared equals 400. So we divide everything by 400 to make it equal to 1. So 25 over 400x squared minus 16 over 400y squared equals 400 over 400. Now on the calculator, we do the 25 over 400, math enter is 1 over 16. The 16 over 400, math enter is 1 over 25. So this simplifies to x squared over 16 minus y squared over 25 equals 1. Now a equals 4 because a squared equals 16, and b equals 5 because b squared equals 25. So c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared, or 16 plus 25 equals 41. And so c is plus or minus the square root of 41. And this again, the asymptotes again are b over a, not a over b. So it's 5 over 4x, excuse me for that. But we see the vertices are negative 4, 0, and 4, 0. And outside them, to the right of 4, 0 is square root of 41, 0. And to the left of negative 4, 0 is negative 41, negative square root of 41, 0. And the minor axes are 0, 5, and 0, negative 5. So the box is 2 5s by 2 4s. Okay, now on 10, we don't have to do it, we're done drawing now. So 10 is x squared over 9 minus y squared over 16. So c squared is 9 plus 16. You can always get the c squared by adding the two bottom numbers, equals 25, and c equals 5. So this is centered at 0, 0. So the vertex is plus or minus 3, 0, and the focus point is plus or minus 5, 0. Very easy. Now 12, y squared, opening up or down, minus x squared over 49 equals 1. So a squared is equal to a square root of a squared is square root of 32, which we factor to get the biggest perfect square as square root of 16 square root of 2, or 4 square roots of 2. Now c squared, again, is just adding the bottom numbers. 32 plus 49 is 81, which square roots to 9. So the vertices is up and down. So it's 0 plus or minus 4 square roots of 2, and the focus point is out beyond those, so it's at 0 plus or minus 9. Okay, now on 14 we have a vertex at 0, 3 and focus at 0, 6, so it's opening on the y-axis, so y squared comes first, over a squared, which is 9, and then x squared we have over b squared we have to find. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We know that a squared equals 9, c squared equals 36. So b squared is 36 minus 9, or 27, and factoring it for perfect square root when we square root is b equals square root of 9 square root of 3, or 3 square roots of 3. But we really just need the 27 for the equation here. That's all we needed to find. So y squared over 9 minus x squared over 27 equals 1, which is what we needed. Now for 16, we know the covertex is 0, negative 2, which gives us b equals 2. And the focus is 13, 0, which puts the major axis on the x, which means x squared will open first. So we have, well, let's find what we have. We have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So a squared plus b squared, or 2 squared, plus 4 equals 13 squared. And so a squared is equal to 169, which is 13 squared, minus the 4, which is 165, and that's what we needed. So we have x squared over 165 minus y squared over 4 equals 1. Now 18 is the first time we've used the transverse axis, which just means it opens up and down. It's a vertical axis. The vertical axis has a length of 14, which means up and down 7. We have to cut it in half. And asymptotes plus or minus 7 over 5. So when it's vertically up and down, the asymptotes is plus or minus a over b. We have a as 7, so that leaves the b as 5 on the plus or minus 7 over 5. And that gives us what we need, because that's y squared over 7 squared minus x squared over 5 squared equals 1, or y squared over 49 minus x squared over 25 equals 1. And that's done. That's all we wanted, is the equation. Now here on 20, we have a center of 3, 2, and a equals 2, and a b equals 1. So we have x minus 3 over a squared minus y minus 2 squared over b squared equals 1, or putting in our a squared and b squared, x minus 3 squared over 4 minus y minus 2 squared equals 1, and that's our equation. Now for 22, we're given 3y squared minus 4x squared equals 24, so we right away divide everything by 24. So 3 over 24 is 1 over 8, and 4 over 24 is 1 over 6. So we've got y squared over 8 minus x squared over 6 equals 1, and a equals 8 for the x. No, a equals 8, and that's the y, and b equals 6 is for the x, yeah. Okay. So anyway, what matters is that c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. We always add, again, the two bottom numbers. So a squared plus b squared is a plus 6 or 14. So c is square root of 14. A squared is square root of 8, which factored out is square root of 4, square root of 2, or a is 2 square roots of 2. Okay? So coming back to the center, which was 0, 0, we have our vertex at 0 plus or minus 2 square roots of 2, and our focus at 0 plus or minus square root of 14. Now for 24, we're given x plus y plus 5 squared over 64, so it's opening up, minus x minus 4 squared over 57 equals 1. So that gives us a center of 4 minus 5. So, but it's, now we have to find the, okay, so a squared is 64, that makes a 8. So to find the vertices, we'll take 4 minus 5 plus or minus 8. So adding them would be 4, negative 5 plus 8 is 3, and subtracting 4, negative 5 minus 8 is negative 13. Now the focus is 64 plus 57 is 121, square root of that's 11. So now for the focus points, remember still on the y, we have 4 and negative 5 plus or minus 11, giving us 4, 6, and 4, negative 16 when we subtract. Now for the last one, we have 7y minus 1 squared minus 2x plus 1 squared equals 14. Divide everything by 14. We end up with y minus 1 squared over 2, opening up, minus 2 x plus, or 1, just should be, never have a 2 up there. It's x plus 1 squared over 7 equals 1. So the 2 shouldn't be there in front of the x plus 1. So a squared is 2, so a is plus or minus the square root of 2, but c squared is always the addition of the bottom two numbers. So that c squared is 2 plus 7 equals 9, or c is 3. So here we have, the center is negative 1, 1, so that gives us vertices on the y direction of negative 1, 1 plus or minus square root of 2, and a foci of negative 1, 1 plus or minus 3. So subtracting, that's 1, negative 1, adding it's negative 1, 4, and subtracting it's negative 1, negative 2 for the foci points. Okay, God bless, this is Tuesday.